Hi guys, I'm grateful to have the opportunity to spend just a few minutes talking to you guys today about hope on the HopeCast, and just to share a few of my thoughts with you. I guess what makes me unique is that I teach at a men's prison here in Moberly, Missouri, and I got to tell you, the guys that I work with there in the prison, they don't have a whole lot of hope. And one of the things I think that really keeps them from feeling that they have very much to hope for is the fact that their choices have left them trapped there in the prison. And I think a lot of us kind of feel the same way, especially right now when we have this coronavirus quarantining going on. We feel trapped in our homes. But maybe just more figuratively, we feel like we're trapped by the choices that we make, and that we feel like we're victims of circumstance. Well, if I can tell you the same thing that I tell my students there at the prison, for every problem under the sun, there is a solution, or there is none. If there is one, then hurry and find it. But if there is none, then never mind it. That's actually a quote from Elder LeGrand Richards. I was told that one 30 years ago, and it's done good service for me to remind me that for every problem that I encounter in life, there's a solution for it, or there isn't one. And if there's nothing I can do about it, whining isn't going to make it any better. Now, I don't mean to sound flippant in saying that and telling people just to disregard their issues, disregard the problems that they face. But it's helped me a lot to think about that, because it helps me to remember that if I can do something to fix my problems, then I need to do those things. But if there's things that are out of my control, then I can just let those things go and just have hope that my Father in heaven, and through the atonement of Christ, that all things can be made right. All things can be made right. The second thing that I typically share with my students is a quote from Viktor Frankl from his book, Man's Search for Meaning. And he said that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, and that is the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. So again, regardless of the circumstances that we may face, we can decide to choose what our response will be. We can decide to be happy. And I know that sounds simplistic, but it really does come down to just those simple choices. One of my favorite poems about hope is from Emily Dickinson. It's actually a very famous one. I'd actually be kind of surprised if you guys hadn't heard it before. But if you haven't, here's a treat. Emily Dickinson, in one of her poems, which she typically didn't title, she said, "Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never, in extremity, it asked a crumb of me." So hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul. And though it gives so much to us, it never asks a crumb in return. And we know that that through hope, that we can be uplifted, that we can be happy, we can experience positive things in our lives. A lot of times we may feel that we are trapped by our circumstances, but we can still have hope. We can still reach out and upward for the hope and the help that's available to us. The last thing I'd like to share with you guys today is a poem of my own composition. This one is titled "Hymn to God in My Extremity." It's one that I've written, and it follows a theme, or it follows a symbol of one of those compasses. You know, the ones where you stick it in the paper and you can draw a circle with it, and the further out you stretch it, the bigger the circle gets. But if you stand upright, then you're closer to the center, which is where the fixed foot is for that drawing compass. Now, I can't take credit for that symbol because that actually came from John Donne, the famous English poet. But I took his idea and I adapted it to my own purposes. So this is a hymn to God in my extremity. By thee I am drawn, yet I, resisting, rest the Liahona, still insisting that thy compass is unnecessary for me to circle the adversary. And so I roam, departing from thy side toward the spacious building of my pride. Thy one eternal round forgot, along with him who died. My wickedness was never happiness, but thou in thy great wisdom made a press of my afflictions, to crush my sour grapes into a wine, to toast that hour when all things turn for my experience, through thy mercy and my obedience. May it ever be so with me, through thy omnipotence. Pre-Genesis, I lived as son with thee, and knew thy part and plan, and saw what I could be. Thou hast sent me forth as ray from central sun, to choose my path with promise. I would run the course I chose, to wander far or nigh, forever in thy viewing from on high. This wretched distance I have caused. Thou hast not moved, but I. Draw me again to stand anew with thee upon the narrow path I knew before. Renew my heart again, O Lord, I pray, that I may at the end be blessed, that thou wilt say, Come unto me, thou ransomed one. Son, redeemed, my elder son, come in and rest in holiness, thy path of pain now done. I think that's the hope that I have, that despite the mistakes that I make, despite the choices that I make that imprison me, like the choices my students make that imprison them at the prison, that there will come a day of release, that I can be set free, that we all can be set free from the choices that we make, that it's not a life sentence or an eternal life sentence if we will do what's necessary. I've got a lot more that I could say in terms of the parallels between being imprisoned literally and being imprisoned spiritually, the parallels and the symbolism of what Alma called the probationary state. I have a lot of guys that are on probation and ended up violating their probation and coming back. So there's a lot more that I could say about that. So maybe in a future day I'll have an opportunity to share more of those thoughts with you. But for now, hopefully that shares a bit of hope with you and those who are viewing. And I wish everyone well. Have a great day.